Okay, good morning. Chapter 4. Um, we learned that Avner was killed by Yoav and that David was doing everything he can to prove that he wasn't part of it. I said that maybe it was also honest pain or honest mourning, but also it was very political one. He should prove everybody that he is not part of that. It is not his ways, right? How do you say, the purpose doesn't justify every mean, or the goal doesn't justify the mean. It's a term like that in English.
The ends don't justify the means.
Yeah, the end.
Usually it's the other way around. The end justifies the means.
No, so the end doesn't justify the mean. And this is an important point, meaning David should be the king of all Israel, but the way is there, it maybe require patient and still moral behavior. Because what was common in the past, and maybe also in the present, I don't know, that everything would justify for the king to do in order to be a king. And we know people that killed their own brothers and their children, and horrible thing that's happened during history when people desire power. And David tried to show that this is not the way, because David, it's not only the King David, it's the kingdom of God, the kingdom of the idea. When we are talking about the redemption, the Mashiach, we are talking about the family of David, right? That's David, Mashiach ben David. So it should be something that would be done in a proper way, in a moral way, ethical way. It's not the fact that God wants David as a king. It doesn't say that you can kill anyone in the way. And this chapter 4, it's the same exact point. And not other people that made the mistake to think that David would want his enemies killed in order to be a king, and this was a huge mistake. So this was already the third case. We have the first case was Shaul himself and the Amalek, the young Amalekite or the Amalekite boy. The second was Yoav and Avner. And the third is this case. So let's start reading. When Ishbosheth, son of Shaul. So you see that the word Ishbosheth here is in parentheses because in Hebrew it doesn't appear. We say that there is a game of names here in order to diminish, to show us how weak and meaningless was Ishbosheth. More than once, the Bible just skip his name. The son of Shaul. This is his title. And when he heard that Avner has died in Hebron, he lost heart. What does it mean, lost heart? Well, in Hebrew it doesn't say lost heart. It says irpu yadav, which means his hands were weakened, demoralized, right? And all Israel was alarmed. Alarmed in Hebrew nivhalu. Someone who is nivhal is concerned, worried, alarmed. Yeah. What we see here, first, that again, all the power of Ishbosheth came from Avner. Once Avner is not there, he doesn't have any way for himself to do anything. Second, that maybe the public mourning of David didn't achieve the effect that he wants. People are afraid of him. They said if he could kill Avner, he could kill anyone. Maybe also all of Israel is alarmed because Avner, who was a great protector, a great military commander, was lost. And we say that Avner making Ishbosheth the king, it's not only against David, it's also against the Plishtim. We remember that the Plishtim just won the war against Am Israel, and we're going to see the effect not only in the battlefield, but also in other places. So the one who was able gradually, as we saw in chapter 2, gradually return all Am Israel under the kingdom of Shaul, of the son of Shaul, was Avner. And now the great protector is not here. Am Israel is alarmed not only from David, but also from the Plishtim or other nations that are in the zone, which was and still not the safest place in the world. The son of Shaul had two company commanders. Again, the translation here is very, very flexible, I would say. Two company commanders. It says there were two people that were commanders of battalion, Gdudim, units. But it says, Ayub ben Shaul, meaning wherewith the son of Shaul. Apparently, people in his army. One named Ba'ana and the other Rechav, sons of Rimon, the Beerothite. Benjaminites, since Beerot was two was considered part of Binyamin. So here there's a lot of details that looks like irrelevant and very, very strange. Some of the Mepharshim say it's want to emphasize they are from the tribe of Ishbosheth, they are from Binyamin, from his side, and still they are going to, spoiler, kill him. But מבני רימון הבארותי, כי גם בארות תחשב על בנימין. Why it's important to mention that בארות is considered part of Binyamin. It looks like without saying that we would have thought it's not considered part of Binyamin. The Tanakh wants to emphasize. And then it has another historical detail which is not very clear. The Beerothites had fled to Gittim. Gittim is Gat, is Plishtim. So the Beerotime escaped from whom? To Gittim, where they have sojourned to this day. Why did they escape? And this Bnei Rimon, Rachav and Ba'ana, were from the people that escaped or from the people that stayed? It's not very clear, all these details. I will tell you the stories that will be unfold during the next chapters, a very unknown story in the Bible. We're going to see that, remember the story about the Givonim? Givon was a city that was deceiving Yeshua. They pretended to be from far away, and they made peace, and they weren't part of Am Israel, and then they became slaves of Am Israel. It's not very clear all this. We saw the story in Sefer Yoshua, but what's happened with them next? We don't know a lot about that. One of the cities, it wasn't only Givon, we mentioned Givon, but actually there were 5 cities. One of them was Beerotaim that we are talking about here. All of them are in the Nachalah of Binyamin, meaning with Shaul. And we're going to see in chapter 21 that Shaul apparently killed a lot of them. A story that we didn't see before, doesn't mention before, but he has some open account with them. So when it says here, maybe it doesn't refer to the Jewish people that live in Beerotaim, but to the Givonim. It's called from the Chivi, one of the nations. The Chivi that live in Beerotaim escaped to Gittim. Why? Because of Shaul. Because Shaul killed them. So we can go in 2 directions. Or that these 2 people are from this same. So it was very common that people change sides. We saw that David with the Plishtim. It was something that was happening. So maybe they are from this nation. But it says here, Mibnei Binyamin. So they were mixed with the son of Binyamin. Other way around is to say, no, the opposite. They were from the side of Shaul, from the people of Binyamin, that Shaul protected and gave them the city of Beerotaim, and still they were so ungrateful. I understand with someone it's not grateful. The opposite of grateful is ungrateful. Yeah, so Shaul was giving them this space, and they reward him by killing his son. Okay, we will see more about the story of the Givonim, like I said before, in the next chapters. But just remember that Shaul has some open story with the Givonim, or the Givonim has open story with Shaul. We're going to see that. So here there's another verse number 4, which is not very clear why it is connected here. They put it in the translation, they put it in parentheses for that reason. So we say, Jonathan, son of Shaul, remember Jonathan? He was a big friend of David, a good friend of David. So Jonathan, son of Shaul, had a son whose feet were crippled. He was 5 years old when the news about Shaul and Jonathan came from Israel, and his nurse picked him up and fled. Why did she fled? It was far away from the battle. We understand that when you lose a battle, it's not only the people in the battlefield that are going to suffer. They're going to enter the cities, they're going to kill people, to rape people, to kidnap people, and everybody is running away, especially if you are in the city of the king. And that's why Ishbosheth, where he started to be king, in Machana, in the other side of the Jordan, he had to escape far north in order to be able to establish his kingdom. So in this panic loss, and that's what I said before, the loss in the battlefield was affecting all of Israel. And the one who could recover the nation was Avner. And once Avner is not there, everybody's panic again. He's panicking because Plishtim, David, everybody around, we need Avner, right? That was the reason. So we see that what's happening in the day of the loss of the battle of Shaul, everybody was panicking, and the nurse of the son of Jonathan was trying to taking him and run away. But as she was fleeing in haste, he fell and was lamed. Apparently, something in the spine or something. So we understand the panic. Anyway, his name was Mephibosheth. All the context of this verse here, it's not very clear. The Mefarshim try to explain why we get this information here. We are not going to speak about Mephibosheth. It's not Ishbosheth, it's Mephibosheth. It's other person. We are not going to speak about him here. It just maybe mentioned this is the only descendants of Shaul that was left apart from Mephibosheth. We don't any other people that can claim the kingdom, because this one is disabled and he cannot be in this time. He couldn't be the king. He's the only one who is somehow can be the heir of Shaul. So he was the last one. So once you kill Mephibosheth or taking him away, who is the only one who will be the king? David. So this is like the last obstacle. So they are making a favor. These people, Rachav and Baana, are going to make a favor for David. This is one way to understand this context of this verse here. By the way, from this one son, we're going to see in Divrei Hayamim, the last book in the Bible, that grew up a big family. He had hundreds of descendants. We saw later brave people, strong people, and we can say that the line of the house of Shaul continued through this son. But again, in this context is to tell you Mephibosheth and then nothing. The only one who survived was a disabled child. He was 5 when Shaul died, so we are talking here that he's about 12. 10 to 12, because all the story of Mephibosheth was 7 years. So this was Mephibosheth. So Rachav and Baana, sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, started out. What started? It doesn't say started. It says they went, and they reached the home of Ishbosheth at the heat of the day, when he was taking his midday rest. Now, we are not they are going like in a street in Edmonton and suddenly enter to a random house. This is a house of the king. How can they go and just like that go to the house? Maybe we can see go in two directions, both of them bad. First, they were so close to the king, nobody suspected them. They were very close with Sarek Dudim. The other way is the panic and the uselessness of the people without Avner was so big that even the king himself in his house wasn't protected. 2 people just could get in and kill him without any problem. You know that usually arrive to the king is you have to go through a lot of security. But here it says they came when everybody is resting in the middle of the day. And let's see the next 2 verses. So they went inside the house as though fetching wheat, and struck him in the belly, the same belly, Chomesh, that we mentioned about Avner and about Asael, the same place, very popular place to kill people. We can also learn from that if they chose to kill him by hitting him there, we understand this is the exact place where you kill people, and we understand again the strength of Avner that could make it directly to this place in the middle of running. This person sleeping in front of them, this is the exact place when they are choosing to hit him. And Avner could do that without seeing in the back of his hand, right? Like that. Anyway, they killed him in his bed. Rechav and his brother Baana slipped by and entered the house while he was asleep on his bed, in his bed chamber, and they stabbed him to death. They cut off his head and took his head and made the way all night through the Arava. So these 2 verses also the Mefarshim are trying to understand. It looks like they say the same thing, 6 and 7. 6, 7, right? It's both say the same thing. They entered the house, he was sleeping in his bed, they killed him. but there is like it's repeat twice, and the question is why. Some say they killed him, ran away, and then entered again. They remembered, oh, we should make a proof for David. So first of all, they only wanted to kill him. Once they killed him, they said, you know what, we can benefit from that. They returned and cut his head in order to bring to David. So according to that, verse 7 is another story. So they entered, ran away, returned. And all of that they could do without anyone noticing them. And they can just enter and kill the king without a problem. So this is like a little bit strange, but that's what some of them say. Others say, no, the second part is just elaborating more about the first one. In the first one, it just says they killed him. In the second one, they elaborate more. It's elaborate more. They say he was sleeping, and they took his head, etc. Well, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no.
It also can be another explanation that there are two reasons. The first verse is that they wanted to kill him because they wanted to kill him, without any kind of other reason, because of the story of the Givonim, because of they hate him or whatever. The second verse is about the political action of taking his head in order to show David, right? Some emphasize the fact that he was sleeping in his bed, helpless, without. It wasn't like killing him in the battle. Until now, we saw they killed Asael in the battle, they killed Avner, Shaul was killed in the battle. The way he died is very similar to his father, only the very opposite. His father, Shaul, was dead in the battlefield, and they took his head and put him as a sign, right? Remember the story of Shaul? Here he was sleeping in his bed and was killed, and they also took his head. So we see the comparison and to emphasize the difference, right, between them. He is fighting for his life, the other one is helpless in his bed. Okay, anyway, they killed him and ran away. Also, Kol Halayla, like we said, we remember the verse of Vayilchu Kol Halayla, they walked during the whole night. It repeats again several times. It was when the people of Yavesh Gilad went to save Shaul. Remember, they took his head from the walls of Bet Shean. The Plishtim hanged the head of Shaul in Bet Shean, and they took his head to bury him. So they walked all night, that it says. It's also said that they walked all night when Avner fought with Yoav. Yoav worked all night to Hebron, and Avner walked all night to Machanaim. So here also we have all night, and it doesn't say enlights the morning enlightens them, like it said about Avner, about Yoav. So we see again, this is a dark action. It's not something that we support, like the verse, okay, like we see now. So they brought the head of Ishbosheth to David in Hebron. Here they said to the king, in the head of your enemy, Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, who sought your life. This day God has avenged my lord the king upon Shaul and his offspring. So they are using the name of God to justify the wicked action. And again, we see the attitude that says, if I believe that God wants David to be king, everything I can do everything in order to achieve this goal. I can justify any action to kill, to do that. And this is the exact opposite of what David said. But David answered Rachav and his brother Baana, the sons of Rimmon, the Be'eroth, and said to them, as God lives, who has rescued me from every trouble? So it's not up to you to save me or to give me benefit. It's God, the one who has rescued me, right? Not you with your action. The one who told me in Siklag that Shaul was dead thought he was bringing good news. But instead of rewarding him for the news, I seized and killed him. How much more then when wicked men have killed an innocent man in bed in his own house? I will certainly avenge his blood on you, and I will rid the earth of you. So the answer of David is very, very clear. You are the third one that makes the same mistake. People think that David wants to take revenge of Shaul, that he wants to kill his enemies, the opponents, that everything would justify him arriving to be king. And David proved once and again that it's not the way that he believes in. He doesn't say, he does believe in revenge, to punish people for the bad actions. You kill the person without a reason, without me ordering that, and I will show everybody that it wasn't for me. And again, David should show everybody that it's not him. He wants to unite the people. He don't want civil war. He wants to unite the people. So again, maybe he didn't do enough with Avner that people still think that that is what he wants. But he is going to prove again that this is not coming from him. Just about one verse here, it says, wicked people have killed an innocent man. The Hebrew is not innocent, is tzaddik, righteous man. And the question is, what is righteous? We can understand that Ishbosheth was really righteous. He wasn't a good king, but he was a good person, which is not necessarily contradiction, right? You can be a bad king, but a very good person. Sometimes it's even come together. But it can be understood as like the translation here, tzaddik, meaning innocent, in the meaning that he wasn't deserved to die. He was lawfully king. He got the king, the throne, in a justified way. So there wasn't reason to kill him. Even if I want to be king, there's no reason to kill him. What?
No. Great.
Yeah. I will certainly avenge his blood on you. So though David David used the measure of measurement against measurement. How do you say it? You know this term? Measurement for measurement. Do the same thing that you did. We come back to you.
Eye
So the
eye for an eye.
Measure for measure, right. So David gave orders to the young men. We said it several times. Ne'arim in modern Hebrew is young men, but in the Bible many times is servants, so people who work for you. It's not necessarily the age, not young men. It's the people of David. So David gave orders to the people to his servants who killed them. They cut off their hands. Why did they cut off their hands? The hand that killed the person, and hang them and cut off their and feet. Why feet? Those who worked all night and ran away and did all of that. This is measure for measure, right? And hang them up by the pole in Hebron. And they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in the grave of Avner at Hebron. The pool. So remember the story of the battle between David and Shaul, or between David and Ishbosheth, starting the pool of Givon, and it ends in the pool of Hebron. Right, it's a symbolic closure of all this fight. And David, why is hanging them? To show everybody it wasn't me, it wasn't from my side. David makes every effort to show everybody this is not my ways. I'm not against Shaul. I'm not against the house of Shaul. We have other ways to act. And in respect also the rest of the people, right? So the rest of Ishbosheth, the head of Ishbosheth, he put him in the same grave of Avner. So it's interesting, Ishbosheth and Avner are both buried in the capital of David, in Hebron, not in the Binyamin where they come from, but in the capital of David. Well, that it is, it's a short chapter, but this is the end of the kingdom of Shaul. Right, once Ishbosheth died, there's no continuation, as we saw before. Only one who's left was Mephibosheth, who was disabled. And now, naturally, we're going to see in the next chapter, all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, we are your own flesh and blood. So what Avner wanted to do was delayed by the action of Yoav. It was delayed a little bit, but in the end, everybody arrived to the conclusion that David is going to be the king. And from now on, we are talking about the united kingdom of Israel under the King David. How long it was united? Only 2 generations, David and Shlomo. After that, it's again going to be separated. Also in the time of David and Shlomo, it was also almost divided more than once. So the union of Am Yisrael, of the tribe of Am Yisrael, wasn't very strong. There was a reason to separate. We've suffered from that tendency until today, right? We cannot get along, let's separate, let's go. Okay, but at least in this point, when Ishbosheth died, even though it wasn't from part of David, it wasn't with the will of David, David was against it, but it did clear the way to unite the kingdom under David. Okay, the verse 3 in the next chapter, and they anointed David king over Israel. Okay. Well, we stop here.
Thank you, Rabbi.